to the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. We're also on BitChute YouTube as Speaking Podcast. I also have the Awakening Podcast, the Learn Polish Podcast, the Meditation Podcast, and the new Crypto Podcast, and all can be found on roycullen.com. Today, my guest, Aleya Harris. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Roy. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. So you might let the audience know, who's Aleya?
Sure. So again, my name is Aleya Harris. I'm based here in Los Angeles, California, and I own a marketing company called Flourish Marketing, where we help empire building entrepreneurs flourish in business and in life. We offer strategy consulting, marketing messaging, copywriting, and bioenergetic business coaching. And I've been a marketer for over a decade, and I've been speaking probably for, it's been over 5 years. It depends on what you count as speaking, on whether someone was paying me to do it or if I was doing it for my company, but where there's a stage, I tend to find myself on it.
No, I class it as, if you're speaking, whether it's for your company, it doesn't have to be paid. It's still classed as speaking. So.
Yes. Well, and I definitely, once I was like, wait a minute, I can get paid to do this. Oh man, whole new world opened up.
Brilliant. So what's your journey actually? Because I always like to know what's the speaking journey. So when you were younger, were you the shy type, or were you actually always confident?
I don't think I've ever been categorized as shy a day in my life. In fact, there was, I have several stories when it was like elementary school, and we'd be sitting in class, and, I would always be the one getting in trouble for speaking. And I've had a loud voice, did not know how to whisper. And that was my thing. I didn't get in trouble for doing any like true deviant behavior, but they could not keep me from talking. So I think that it's been in my blood for quite a while. I've spoken a little bit here and there, but then I really dove in when I was working as a vendor partner on the Google Food team. And I was super, super lucky to be on a project called the Google Food Lab, where we brought in thought leaders from across, the food industry to talk about food sustainability, behavioral sciences, behavioral economics. It was pretty cool because we were this little group in a room changing the future and shaping and identifying the future of our food system. And when from there, I, got to talk a little bit, be on the stage a little bit, really caught the bug from there. And then when I started my own business, I used speaking as a great way to audience build. My first largest stage was actually in New Orleans at a conference, a food industry conference called Cater Source. And from there, it's been nothing but up. I think last year I did virtually, I think it was like 50 or so speaking engagements. So it's super easy when they're virtual because you don't have to get on a plane and go anywhere. And this year it's starting to pick back up. I'm racking up the flight miles once again. But I love it as a way to connect with my audience and also make myself, a human away from the screen. Now that things are hopefully starting to open back up, and hopefully they'll stay open still.
Exactly. So when you are with a real audience, how do you actually prepare your speeches? What way do you actually structure yourself?
I want to make sure that I'm telling a story. I am a StoryBrand Certified guide, and that model is built off of a book and a framework written by Donald Miller called Building a Story Brand, which takes the traditional hero's journey model that was illustrated by Joseph Campbell and breaks it down for how you can tell stories in a simple kind of 7-part framework. If you haven't read the book, I highly suggest going out and getting it. And one of the things that we talk about is that you need to start with a problem. Often speakers get up on stage and they talk about their bio, and that's cool, but no one's interested really in you. And if you're that big of a name, people already know you, so you then still don't need to start with your bio. And then people also often get into their passion and why they're doing what they're doing. And then they try to humanize themselves by showing pictures of their cat and their spouse. I think that has a place, but for me, when I sit in sessions like that, or I hear people speaking on stage like that, it completely turns me off. The very first thing that you want to open with is your problem, because your passion is irrelevant unless it helps someone make a profit. For me, I speak to a B2B audience primarily. So I love to open with the main problem that they're solving and hook them in. If you think about it, that's often how, the real stories get going. Luke was great in Star Wars until he left the farm and started battling, Darth Vader and the Death Star, and all of that started happening because there was a problem, there was an inciting incident. So when I'm structuring my presentations, that's what I start with, and then I make sure to take them on a clear journey. I use various different types of devices to do that, but there's always some type of plan, some type of step, some type of pathway, some type of system. I'm going to take you through these 12 things, these 3 things, in order to get to the end, because you need a device, some type of speaking device for people to follow you through where you're going. Even if you don't mention it directly, it should be clear that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. It also helps people understand where they are in your speaking engagement. And then I always end by showing what transformation could look like based off of the presentation that I've just given, and making sure that they understand that if they don't act on the information, what failure could look like. And it's not a lot, and it's not used car salesman-y, but it's more like, hey, let's really nudge you off the fence to go and change your business, to change your life. And if you don't do that, then people will leave your session saying, oh, that was so nice. And then an hour later, what did they talk about again? What was I supposed to do? So you want to make sure that you call them to action at the end, and you illustrate why they need to get up and get moving and implement whatever it is that you were speaking about.
Okay, excellent. And I believe you've done some keynotes as well.
Yes, I've done keynotes as well.
And what way do you structure that? And what kind of keynotes have you done?
I pretty much do it very similarly. It's not necessarily as, here's the point 1 you'll learn, and point 2 and point 3 that you will learn. It's a little bit more open, but at the same time, it still follows a very similar framework, because story is the way that our brains work and the way that our brain processes information. Even if you start off, like I have one that's around the hero's journey, and you integrating and deciphering what your own hero's journey is. And it starts off by me telling a fictitious story about Bella, and how Bella goes in and out of her problems to end to her victory. And then we keep recalling that story of Bella to have an understanding of how we can uplift and change our own lives. So I do keynote presentations at a couple of the different conferences I speak at, and then I'm also building my own kind of platform, if you will, and I have them virtually for my own audience that gets me on there from my email list.
Okay. And when you had to make the transition during these crazy times, virtually, what did you learn? What did you trying to, connect with the audience? What tips and tricks did you kind of pick up during your 50 that you had to do?
Yeah, I know. And they were Zoom fatigued. I was Zoom fatigued. It was really to connect in an individual way that I would normally do from the stage, but I had to figure out, even just with the tech, how could I see my presentation, and how can I also look around and see who's in the room, and start calling people by name, having more engagement points, asking more. So if you agree with this, drop 1 or a 2 or a 3 in the chat, or if you are understand what we're talking about, type a yep, I get it in the chat, and having much more of those engagement points to keep them going. also having a structured worksheet or workbook that's sent in advance, or you present during the session, was incredibly helpful, because it allowed people to feel like they were actually doing something, not just listening to a stranger talk. They were, again, putting it into their perspective. By the time they were done, they knew that whatever was going to happen, they were going to have this worksheet filled out and they were going to get some type of benefit from it. So that also was incredibly helpful. Above all, it was being less formal, even though I'm not a particularly formal person anyways, but being less formal, taking it down to the one-on-one level and leaning into different ways of using the technology to engage, rather than just cold, flat presenting, having it be more of a one-to-many conversation rather than just a one-to-many presentation.
Regarding the worksheets that you gave out, was it something that they could kind of fill in online, or is it something that you had to print off? Because I know that some people, printer jams up, or they don't have a printer. And, and just because I stopped, I used to use a lot of printers, and I just stopped. I haven't printed something for over a year. So I'm just curious, that is it something that they were able to do online to fill it in?
Most of them actually were things that they could have on their computer, but then take notes on their like their notebook or their journal or something. Some of them were printable. The PDFs, a lot of them that I sent out, especially as of late, they had the open space where they could type things in. The ones that you were going to write inside of your own notebook, they a lot of the times were like journal prompts, and I didn't know how much they were going to write, and I'm not going to send you a 50-page document just so you have note space. That seems intimidating for the person downloading it. So there were some that were just like, okay, here are your prompts, here's what you need to go do. Some of them were even like, now physically get up and go do this type of thing, as more of a guide as well, but then you could check off when you've done it, when you've completed it. So it depends on what the content was that I was talking about. But regardless, the ones that I had some type of accompanying thing, some type of thing where it made it felt real, those are the ones that ended up having the largest engagement. Because yeah, I do agree though. I'm looking at my printer right now and it's dusty.
I know you do master classes as well, so you might let me know what that entails, what kind of master classes you're doing.
Sure. Master classes in general tend to be lead magnets for me, and that usually means that I'm selling something, and people are like, oh, do master classes still work? And it's hit or miss. It depends on, from my perspective and from what I've seen in my business, it depends on your email list and how engaged your audience is and the topic. So I've done a master class on using, your chakras and your social media together, and how do you make sure if your chakras are misaligned, your messaging is not. And then I have other master classes on, using the followers to dollars roadmap. The main thing to keep in mind when you're hosting a masterclass is that it's always tied to something that you sell. And when I speak, it's always tied to something that I sell. If I can't work in, it's not that I'm always selling from stage, but if I'm going to have some type of lead magnet and convert you in the email. And if it's not directly tied to what I sell, I'll either pass or have a different topic ready. The master classes are very hands-on. I've sat through a lot of other master classes that are very fluffy, and mine are not. And now at the beginning, I say to people, hey, if this is your first master class with me and you're like doing the laundry or you're, feeding your baby, you're going to miss out, because this one is actually...
So stop feeding your baby.
Yeah, stop feeding your baby. Listen to me. You're gonna miss out. This is important information. But because people multitask, because they're like, I'm interested, but people don't really give away a lot of information because they're information hogs. And I actually have found that the more information I give away, the higher my conversion rates are for master classes, because people actually want to be helped. So if I'm trying to convert you into being a copywriting customer or an email marketing, customer, I'm going to tell you exactly the system you need to use. I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. And what it does is it prepares you. If you're already kind of like a pretty good writer, you're prepared to go. And that's my ultimate goal, is to help people. But then it also illustrates like, ooh, I am not a writer and I need to do all of these things. And this is what an email sequence is supposed to be. Oh, wait a minute. Let me back up here for a second. I need some help. Let me go ahead and work with Aleya and her team. So when we're speaking and when we're engaging with people, I try to make sure that they have the full picture, which I think is a contrary strategy. Most people are just sitting there articulating the why, or they're diving down into the problem, but they're not actually giving away information because they're feeling like if they do, they won't make money. And I just feel like that's not true.
Okay. And I've seen with your webinars that basically you mentioned if you stay on, because I mean, sometimes the webinar can be an hour, maybe even 2 hours, but you're basically saying you're giving a free gift at the end. They're kind of, it's something for them. Just do you find that works by actually kind of saying, listen, for you staying around, you will get something?
Yeah, I find that works. I have very low fall off on my webinars. Usually if I start with 100 and 150 or whatever, if I start with 150, I end up with 148 through the sales pitch at the end. And I think that I can give you free things, and I give away the free thing if they make the purchase on the call, on the webinar. But then I also am giving them usually some, like I said, workbook, worksheet downloads, so they will get that regardless. And again, if the content is good, you tap into the emotional trigger of reciprocity. And so they're there and they're interested and they've been there and they're taking notes. And so they're toying with the idea of working with you. And your goal is to just not mess it up at that point in time, right? If your content was good and you move forward this entire time, they've been there, that means that they're still at least listening. And as long as they're listening and present, you still have a chance to convert them. And then don't forget about that email sequence right afterward. That's where a huge amount of the conversion comes from when you're on a masterclass.
Okay. And I'm sure that the two that dropped off had internet problems. It wasn't that they
must have. I know it wasn't me.
So, because I know you talk about like building trust and consistency through social media as well, like messaging, the engagement, just kind of connecting, making sure everything is, that you're not saying A on one system and B on another. You might just talk a bit on that just to help you, because people are trying to promote themselves as well, when they're trying to be either a coach or a speaker.
Yeah, absolutely. So building trust and consistency on social media involves leveraging and leaning into the key elements of trust, which are honesty, dedication, and empathy and authority. And when you're able to tell someone in different words than this, but you're telling them through your post, hey, I understand what you're going through. I've been through it too. I've helped clients go through it. I've been doing this for X number of years. I've helped this X number of clients. Let me help you achieve the success that we've achieved, because I totally get where you're coming from. When you have those types of conversations and you are there and you're showing up daily on social media, then it is much easier to build an audience. I will say, though, that social media is wonderful and we help our clients with social media, but you should be using social media to build an audience there, but mostly to be building it in your email list. Your goal is to convert people to your email list, because that's the audience that you control. Recently, I actually had one of my accounts deleted. Why? I have no idea why my account was deleted, my social media account. And I'm in the appeals process right now, but I would have been devastated. It's a couple of thousand followers, years of content, right? All grown organically. And I am miffed, not gonna lie. I'm like, ugh, you kidding me? But I'm not devastated because I've built a strong email list. And so one of the things about building trust and consistency with social media is to keep what your business goals are in mind. A lot of the times people use it as their only marketing channel because they're like, it's free and easy. And it is free, and it is, I don't know if I would consider it easy, because the amount that you should be posting actually takes a considerable amount of time and effort. When my team works on people's social media, we save them about 20 hours a month. So it is free, but at the same time, you need to think of what is your full marketing funnel and lead people to working with you in multiple channels and multiple areas. And that consistency on social media, that consistency in your inbox and your email list will help do that. But all of it should be built around your messaging platform. So if you have to decide, what do you want to be known for out in the market, and then only talk about the 3 to 5 topics that layer up into what you want to be known for. That also reduces confusion. And so those are the topics that you should be showing up saying on your social media. And those are the topics that you should also be showing up and saying inside of your email list.
And who do you recommend? Because I know I've tried MailChimp and it drove me crazy. I couldn't get around. And which company would you recommend is the better ones for the mail list?
MailChimp and Constant Contact are not my favorites. They are the older ones, and not my favorites. My favorites are ConvertKit and Flowdesk. ConvertKit is a more text forward version, and Flowdesk is a little bit prettier to look at, but not as robust on the analytics and the back end. So I personally use ConvertKit. I really like it, and they're constantly doing updates, and it's really easy to use. And when I get an email that looks like text, it looks like an email I'd get from a friend, versus getting an email that is too super designed. And I'm already a marketing company, so I got to be careful of not looking a little bit overdone. So I love using ConvertKit for that.
Excellent. No, that's brilliant. And just, because you mentioned you got removed from one social media, there's a friend of mine, because I do an awakening podcast as well, kind of exposing fraud and corruption. I do a weekly show with a guy who's got another podcast, and Anchor, who was owned by Spotify, just removed him. One email saying you go against our guidelines, and just kicked him off. And he's trying to contact them to get the RSS feed so that he can basically put it somewhere else. And he's over a week and they haven't even replied to him.
Wow. Yeah, that's how it was for me. I was just gone one day. One of my publicists emailed me, and she was like, what's going on with your account? I said, I don't know. You tell me. And it's just grayed out. I'm like, oh, okay. So I went to log in and I submitted the information, and they don't tell you if you're coming back, when you're coming back, when they'll get back to you, nothing. It's actually horrible customer service. Horrible. They could automate messages and everything. They don't even need a full person doing it, but they don't communicate with you. So it could be 24 hours before I hear from someone, which it's been longer than that, or it could be 2 weeks to a month, who knows. And that's why it was a friendly reminder. And I did send an email out to my list. I was like, this is why I keep telling you guys that you need to get into email marketing, because social media is great. It's there, leverage it, but don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Absolutely. And I got kicked off YouTube, and basically,
oh no,
to be honest with you, it was good, because there's a lot of people kind of fighting the fight against fraud and corruption, but they're still on YouTube and everything, so maybe they're part of the bad boys club. But when I did get kicked off, and I had doctors on and everything, and you get a generic email, you go against the guidelines and you can appeal, and I said, pick out where there was something said that wasn't true. And they could never come back. They just said, no, sorry. And, eventually kicked off. But what happened is I was on BitChute, and my audio, because I just told everybody, I used it as a kind of marketing tool, and I went from the top 1% to the top 0.5%. So it actually, it benefited me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. When I sent the email about me being kicked off of social, and I was like, are you guys just using social? Let's talk about email. I had in the same day, I had 4 people book discovery calls with me. They're like, oh my God, you scared me. I Jesse, yes, let's talk about it. So you have to turn lemons into lemonade, or I'm a whiskey girl, so I say you turn lemons into a whiskey sour.
Yeah, I seen that you actually like a Japanese whiskey, I believe.
I do like Japanese whiskey. Kokori was my favorite, but something has changed about their flavor profile. I don't know. I keep getting bottles that don't taste the same. I do like Nika coffee malt though. That is another one. And I'm drinking a Kamiki right now. So yes, I do like Japanese whiskey.
Yeah, I've never tried the Japanese whiskey. I mean, obviously I'm Irish, so I've tried different ones, and I like Jack Daniels as well. So,
right.
But never tried Jap, so I must I must check it out and see what.
Yeah. Do you drink Scotch?
Yeah.
Because it'll taste very similar, but in not so heavy-handed, a little bit more elegant than most Scotches.
Okay. Yeah. No, excellent. I'll put it on my to-do list.
Put it on your to-do list. Yeah.
And just finally, because I think it's very interesting, actually, you're a bioenergetic business coach. So,
yes.
You might let people know what's that. Most people would never have heard of.
What the heck are you doing? So at Flourish Marketing, we believe that you cannot build a thriving empire on business strategy alone. You have to align your energy and get yourself together and in alignment before you can truly approach your business and your audience from a place of authenticity. Bioenergetics is a tool that was not created by Nest Health, but was solidified by Nest Health. And I'm a certified Nest Health practitioner that takes your body's energy field, the energy that is around and interpenetrates your body, maps it, and then helps you understand how you are off. That energy field is affected by information, and you get information from everywhere, from your emotions, from other people's emotions, from the EMF radiation in your computer and your cell phone, from the self-talk you give yourself, and it distorts that energy field around not only certain organ systems in your body, but also around your overall field. So if you feel burnt out and exhausted, if you feel unsure, if you feel like you can't communicate or you're not setting proper boundaries and you don't know why, you've talked to a bunch of different coaches, you can't get to the root of the problem, that's when bioenergetics comes in. We work with people in 3 stages. First, we help align, then we manifest, and then we evolve. So in the alignment stage, we scan your body field using a proprietary software from Nest Health that actually uses your voice to pick up the waves of your body field in a similar way to you hearing my voice right now coming through the computer, the phone, the tablet, wherever you're listening right now. In that same way, the body field emits waves that cannot necessarily be seen, but they can be transmitted and registered. The software picks them up using your voice, and it's able to match your field up against the quote unquote ideal body field, which doesn't really exist, but it'll let you know what your body energy is calling for regulation and information correction in that moment. And also during the alignment stage, we set what your goals are and how they map to your own personal hero's journey and where you might be stuck and falling off. In that scan, it has such robust information that it usually takes us about 4 weeks in our weekly sessions to go through it. So we set a baseline for us to move forward. We also give you infoceuticals, which are charged water that allows your body to ingest corrective information so that you don't feel burnt out or tired or lost in the beginning, so we can really dive into that next stage. After the first stage, I've had clients say, I haven't created content in 6 months. I felt lost and exhausted. After working with you for a couple of weeks, taking the infoceuticals, understanding what the root cause of my problem is, I've created 6 pieces of content in a week. So it really does create a large shift. And then we help implement, now that we kind of are getting you back on track, we then implement that inside of your marketing funnel, your messaging strategy, and your business systems and your productization, so that you're coming from a place of clarity, not just poking around in the dark. And from there, after, we scan every 4 weeks and we continue along with the protocol, we help put in systems and guardrails that allows you to no longer fall back into those same patterns that got you in trouble in the first place, so that you can do what everybody says they want to do when they become an entrepreneur and a business owner. They can take breaks, they can have their own schedule, they can be building a legacy of abundance, they can feel energized and in flow. And you can maintain that on your own using your own wisdom and the wisdom of your body field. So bioenergetics allows you to align not only your glow, but your cash flow at the same time.
Nice. And how long does the session, like each session that you go through, is this kind of an hour, half an hour, 15 minutes?
It's a 45-minute session every week. Yeah. And so we either work together for 3 months, 6 months, or longer if you renew. But you get me every week talking to you, taking notes, tracking your wins, making sure that you're on track, holding you accountable. And the homework from week to week could be anything like, okay, now let's really lean into your one-liner. Okay, you need to purchase and read this book, or you need to get a nanny because you're overwhelmed, or you need to have this conversation with your mother, or you need to meditate. I'm able to take your whole life so you can show up as your whole self inside of this entrepreneur lifestyle, so that you don't feel like you need to compartmentalize yourself any longer. And you have someone really helping you navigate your journey.
Excellent. I watched the video of you actually talking about it and showing the graphics, and it was fascinating, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm very curious about that. It sounds like a brilliant way of doing things, because it's totally different to normal coaching. But I know I'm totally into the energy side of things, and
yeah.
So I think it's fantastic. So listen, Aleya, it's been fantastic speaking to you. So how can people get in contact with you?
Well, you can go and then you can't find me on Instagram anymore, but you can go to my
it's next to my YouTube channel.
Right, exactly. In the abyss out there. You can go to flourishmarketing.co, not .com, .co. And from there, you can schedule a call to speak with me or one of my team members. Then you can find our company on Instagram, flourishmarketing.co. But I'd also love to connect with everybody on LinkedIn, Aleya Harris, ALEYAHARRIS. Also on our website, you can find access to getting more information, seeing that video that Roy was talking about on coaching, and how we are truly different at flourishmarketing.co/coaching. Plus, there's a bunch of free resources in the resources section.
Excellent. And I'll make sure I'll put all the links on the podcast description.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So that's all for the Speaking Podcast. You'll find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating, thumbs up, share with your friends. Until next week, take care.